My name is Jagadish Kumar. I'm a professor in the Department of Electrical Engineering. I have with me Professor Shankaran, who is also Professor of Electrical Engineering retired, and Professor VGK Murthy, again former professor at IIT Madras. He also occupied the positions of head of the Department of Electrical Engineering and Dean Academic Research at IIT Madras. Sir, you are the second faculty to join electrical engineering.
No, not really. When I joined, there were already three others. Professor Venkat Rao headed the department, and Ramaswamy joined a few months earlier, and Dravid, N.V. Dravid, associate lecturer. Then he became a lecturer. Incidentally, he is the uncle of our Rahul Dravid.
Oh.
and
Tata Char.
Tata Char joined a little late.
Yes,
At the time when I joined, these three were Tata Char, Professor Sampath, and T.R. Bhatt joined a few months later.
So, at the time, the department was functioning out of BSP.
Yeah, that was the first year when the institute faculty moved into the campus. First 2 years, I think they were operating from the AC College and elsewhere. And so that was the 61-62 is the first academic year when the whole institute moved into the campus. So I joined in August. The session already commenced in July or thereabouts. Therefore, I joined in the first year on the campus, but a few months later. And hostels were functioning, but there are no staff quarters. As a matter of fact, when I...
It's called Officers Hostel, this one. Taramani House was called Officers Hostel, yeah?
Oh yeah, that was built much later. The first day I came to join the institute, I remember that very vividly now. It was all a jungle. And then I started at the gate and said, how far is the building? I said, go, it will be within walking distance. That watchman told me. Then I started walking. It was all jungle. It was a very, very narrow Kacha road. Hardly I could see, I didn't see anybody for a long time. And then here and there's some NBCC, National Building Construction Company. Some of those workers were met them, and they also said you go in the same direction. It was clear at 2 miles. I thought I lost my way, but finally I found something here, some life here, and then everybody was functioning for the BSB. All the departments were in BSB. Some workshops buildings were there, and they are not really were used for workshops. Maybe carpentry and some things like that, which are needed for the first 2 years. The store section, engineering section, various other departments were out in the workshop. But all the academic departments were functioning from the BSP.
So, when was ESB actually built?
When we were in BSP, the building construction began, and we moved into the ESB in 1962. But the building was being built all around us. So we were in the ground floor, but we saw the scaffolding on all sides, and then upper floors were being built and so on. But the southern side, that particular wing was more or less complete. So that was 1962.
Padmanabha Iyer was the person who was ruling the place. Yeah,
Padmanabha Iyer, yes. Padmanabha Iyer came from Indian Institute of Science. He is the foreman, so he's most of the labs he set up in the beginning.
Sir, how many German professors were there in the electrical department at the time?
At that time, there was none.
65 or Meyer?
No, first German professor I think was Zeinecke.
Yes, but
yeah.
Zeinecke was not a professor at that time. He joined the associate professor, I think.
Yeah.
If I remember right.
Probably so. But
Meyer was joined as professor.
Meyer came later, and then
both of them were from Braunschweig.
Meyer was from Braunschweig. Zeinecke I do not know.
Zeinecke was somewhere in the middle of Germany, not Braunschweig.
You should know better. Yeah.
No.
And there was Professor Bestlich. Bestlich from communication department. He came later. And then Holtz.
Sir?
Holtz.
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 And Rutlo. Rutlo is it?
Rutlo.
Rutlo for high voltage? High voltage.
Right.
They came, but they were all for a brief period. The persons who were there for a long time were Zeinecke, Professor Meyer, and Holtz. And there were also some technicians who came and set up the Central Electronic Center. Do you remember the name? The name who set up the CEC? Rakop is one. Rakop is one. But Rakop was preceded by some gentleman which starts with B. Forget the name.
Rutlo. Rutlo is high voltage.
No, but the Central Electronic Center was started by somebody else. Rutlo came later. The Rakop came later.
There was also one TV Bob.
Bob came here much later. For the television lab, that he came late 70s or early 80s. Bob.
This was long, sir. The full one person used to have up to this neck, and then full sleeves.
Maybe Bob?
I thought it was Bob.
Sir, the first batch of students, what was the strength at the time?
Electrical or whole put together?
Electrical.
What year?
Around that 40 or so. But yeah, we used to call them high current and low current.
No current.
Heavy
current and light current.
Heavy current and light current.
Light current. That was the
It
designation.
was called Starkstrom in German in Braunschweig and Schwachstrom.
Oh.
That's why it's called heavy current and light current.
I think 15 each, if I remember right.
Sir?
15 each, perhaps, first batch.
Electrical itself.
Oh. So, no?
The what is it out?
The first batch electrical.
The number of students only 20.
Total
batch 20.
each batch 20. Okay.
Each batch 20.
20. Okay.
Sir? How many?
20 each. 20 each. 20 each. And
Srinivasan,
yeah.
whom we call computer Srinivasan, was mechanical department, right?
Yes.
Huh?
Yes.
It was mechanical department.
Yeah. Only thing is, I had lot of contact with the mechanical students because I taught electrical technology for them.
Okay.
And the first batch electricals, I did teach a few courses, but not such intimate contact with them.
The curriculum was already in place when you joined, or you?
Yeah, it was. I think before, well before I joined, I think there's a committee which was appointed by the Professor Sengupta.
Madras committee.
No, the curriculum committee, and they drafted the curriculum and syllabus. That was at that time it was 5 years, 5 years program, and the first 2 years they had a lot of workshop, and that was a specialty which we used to claim that IIT Madras people are very skilled with their hands. They have 2 years of intensive workshop. And the specialization began only the third year onwards. That was quite interesting. That means the first 2 years, I think 1 week they do workshop and 1 week they have got the academic program. So 1 week, right from morning till evening, they used to do workshop.
For complete day.
Complete day.
Sir, when did research actually start?
Well, I mean, these things we cannot have, sharp boundaries cannot be put in, but as far as engineering is concerned, broadly, I think during Professor Sengupta's time, most of the effort went into the building of the laboratories, establishment of labs, and building the infrastructure. And I think he did a very remarkable job. Accent on research, I think, began with Professor Ramachandran's time. That was, he came around 1969 or 70.
67 end, I thought.
67, yeah. Because once the infrastructure was developed and Ramachandran also introduced some curricular reforms, like he did away with the 1 year long courses and introduced a semester pattern, and he also introduced the
Electives he introduced all.
electives. The 5 year, the semester pattern came along with electives, and he also introduced the MS course by research. That was his innovation, because coming from IIST, where they have the degree with that background, he felt that is a good thing to do. And Professor Ramachandran's tenure, I think, is the beginning of research.
So the PhD as a course started at the time? Or
Yeah, PhD was there even earlier. I think even science department there was PhDs. PhD program as such was on the cards, right? Even Professor Sengupta. As a matter of fact, the first 2 PhDs from my electrical engineering department, I think they finished it from Professor Sengupta's time. B. Ramaswamy and Seshadri. Faculty could register.
both are your students?
No. Professor Ramaswamy is supervisor as Professor Venkat Rao, and Seshadri allowed me to put my name as his supervisor. I did all the work himself.
Sir, when did you join?
63 July 18th.
Yeah. 63 I can vote, July 18th I don't know, maybe about that.
But I got relieved. I was a teacher's right. I think I got relieved in the morning from Hindi College and joined in the afternoon at IIT. Because at the time, the IIT, if you get a seat, if you get a placement, if you get a position, it was supposed to be very high in those days.
Sir, initially the positions were associate lecturer,
Yeah.
lecturer, senior lecturer.
No senior. Yeah, associate lecturer, that is the first faculty position, then lecturer, then assistant professor and professor. Associate professor also was not there at that time.
Introduced somebody, yeah. Because there are some people whom they did not want to give lecturers, professors, so they made them associate professors. Lester, is it true? No one.
Naturally, if you have both positions open, those who cannot,
Yes, those who are not,
who apply for professor's post and then get
yeah, get exactly. Professor and myself were 2 people.
Professor Venugopal, I think, was the first associate professor for the whole institute, I think, if I remember right.
So initially there are only electrical, civil, mechanical.
Metallurgy,
Oh, metallurgy.
metallurgy, chemical.
Oh, it started.
Yes, started, yes.
Started.
Yeah,
So aerospace and
yeah, that's
so added to that.
later, yeah.
EGR is first metallurgy and the yes.
Here, yes, was first. T.H. Ramachandran was in the department as an assistant professor, as the head of the department. When Professor EGR came and gave us became head of the department.
Thank you.
You were, 3 of you were made associate professors. Yourself, Professor Venugopal and Professor Achyutan.
Yes.
And you were also made members of the Senate.
That's right. So it's right.
Yeah,
right.
that is why you were the first member of the Senate to complete 25 years.
Uh-huh.
Remember, 25 years of Senate membership, you only did it.
Yeah, I think it is the Professor Ramachandran who,
Ramachandran
when he became the
wanted
director,
associate.
he said you should associate professors also could be
associate.
members of the Senate. That's right. That's right. And surprisingly, I remember one incident. Three of us were called to the Paris corner, Paris house, Paris corner. Their office. H.P.R. Iyengar was the chairman of the board. So we were the process of being upgraded to professor's post. We all went, Achyutan, myself, and Venugopal, suit and tie and so on. The receptionist thought we were also selection committee members. Said, please go in, sir. Then we had to tell her that we are not selection committee members, we are candidates. So then the tones completely changed. I said, please take your seat there. And when we entered the room, the selection committee has already met, and Professor H.P. Iyengar is a very nice gentleman. He said, gentlemen, we have decided to make you professors. Now the interview starts. So please be at ease. Please be at ease. Let us discuss something. What is the? What do you think of industry and institute collaboration?
So the industry and institute collaboration started in 1993 in a formal way.
Not in 1993. It was.
RGN became the first dean area for.
Yeah, they used to have various divisions.
Professor in charge.
He was the dean, industrial consultancy and continuing education. I think this was both of them were combined. I think it was RGN was in charge. And then in the evolving plans for the institute, they thought there was a need for a trust in industry collaboration. And the Germans were promised a lot of aid for that, including one professor deputed for that purpose to stay and set up the center. That was in 1977 or thereabouts.
ICSR is 73 ICSR.
73 or 70, no,
73 it started. Wagner.
Wagner. Yeah, Wagner came. And at that time, I was put as professor in charge of industrial consultancy. So I worked with Wagner for a couple of years. And
There was one gentleman called Wagner. Who was that?
Wagner.
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 There was Wagner separate and Wagner. There are two persons.
Oh, okay.
Don't remember.
Yeah.
It entered into my mind.
Yeah.
Most likely wrong.
So that was when the ICSR was set up. It was called not ICSR at the time. It used to be called ICC, Industrial Consultancy Center. And later on it became ICSR because the sponsored research became a very heavy component of the total consultancy activities. So that was when it was renamed as ICSR. The ICC used to function from the top floor of the BSB.
When the first computer center started,
Yes.
did we have courses in the electrical engineering curriculum teaching computers for the students, or we introduced much later?
I think there were hardly any at the time.
We had 1620, do we have, sir? We used to go to somewhere else.
Yeah. See, we didn't have a computer at all in the institute, and our faculty members who were doing research which needed computer, they used to go to Grindy Engineering College with their pack of punch cards and then taking them out. I remember Professor Shankar and others used to go there.
See, the card, one of them is replaced. Or rather, get interchanged. Once they went on getting blank cards as output.
Okay. Yes, right.
When did the institute actually started becoming self-contained? Because in the beginning, many faculty stayed outside. And when I came in, I know Professor Radhakrishna was coming from outside. Quite a few faculty were coming from Adyar and Sadapet.
Some chose to stay in Adyar because of probably children's education, whatever it is. But about 60-80% faculty started living here from 64-65 onwards. Professor Swami, I think, which is reasonable.
Quite a large number is
Large
staying
number
in
is
campus.
there.
Sir,
Yeah.
63 already, you are already there campus, there.
I came in 62 or so.
First loop road,
First,
top first floor left
Yeah.
side.
yeah, C1 type. That was a special. Can I say something about C1 type?
Sir, this is
Yeah,
no
okay.
holds barred.
Okay, sure,
If
sure,
you
sure,
want to
sure,
criticize,
sure, sure.
this is only recording of old memories.
Yeah.
Uh,
I think I have a few things to say. Professor Sengupta, our first director, he was a very remarkable person, and I had a run-in with him on a number of occasions, but still I admire him, and I think the institute was a lot to him. He used to take personal care about every little thing in the campus, and he used to refer to them in a very possessive tone. My faculty, my head of the department, my students, and everything was his. And he put a lot of energy into everything he did. And one of his prized designs was the C1 type. It seems he designed that layout of your C1 quarters. And that used to be really very convenient. And I know some people who joined there as lecturer in C1 type and would not leave it even after they became professors. They stuck to C1 type. And then this gentleman was very informal also. He used to come, and one evening he came to visit one of our neighbors, who is a Bengali, and he came for a social visit. Then he dropped in our house. I said, "How are you doing? How is the setup? How is the quarters?" Young man I was not very probably prudent or diplomatic. I said, there used to be a small room. I said, it probably one could have built a shelf here, a built-in shelf to keep books because it's a study room. I could see that he was very much upset. Of course, I said this setup is very nice, very convenient. Because if I had altered the two remarks, changed the sequence, it would have been all right. But he is a very nice person, and then but immediately he would get offended if you say something about. But
Vibhuti Bhushan, right, sir?
Vibhuti Bhushan, yeah.
Sengupta.
Once I had, I think this was my first year or so, 62. Gindi Engineering College asked me to come as an external examiner for some practical examinations. Normally we need to get permission, and then I sent a letter. Then Professor Sengupta called me and said, "What happens to your lectures here?" So it is on 3 days. Only one day I have lectures, and then I have made alternative arrangements. Young man, if you concentrate on going as an examiner elsewhere, then what happens to this? So he was like, I said, "Sir, we call them for their faculty as external examiners for our own examinations. Should we not reciprocate?" I said, "Okay." Then I said, "Okay, but please don't indulge in this too much."
So the Gajendra Circle. I mean,
Yes.
When the design started, was it by the first director? No.
Yes, it was. I think it was done at the time of the first convocation in 64.
64.
64, first convocation.
Yeah.
I think Y.S. Ramaswamy, the superintendent, institute superintendent at that time, I think he was perhaps the architect.
The convocation you're talking about, the first convocation address. Address is going to President directly.
Oh, yeah, President of Germany. But the Gajendra Circle also was built around the same time, I think.
No.
Ah.
Earlier, 62, Professor Luke K. inaugurated the IIT, foundation stone of IIT.
Yeah, but at the time the Gajendra Circle was there, I doubt.
Vice Ramswamy was there.
Okay.
OIT was built at,
Yes, at OIT they laid the cornerstone and
and when OIT is first convocation was held.
right.
Ramaswamy and Seshadri together took the degrees in electrical department first convocation, right?
Yes, yes.
For the very first convocation, both of them took PhD.
I think so. May not be first convocation.
No.
No.
Not the first convocation.
Not the first
First
convocation.
convocation is 64. No, that
Not the first convocation.
But we believe the first computers came from the USA.
First,
Computers on campus. There was an analog computer and there was a small
Yeah.
German computer, I believe, which came from in 1962 or so. Is that true, sir?
you see, we had a small analog computer, which came from Germany.
That was in the department.
That was in the electrical department. And then in the Brooklyn Polytechnic Institute, they had a big analog computer built with walls, vacuum tubes, huge affair. And they have no use for it anymore. So they thought it is they can give it as a gift to some Indian institute. And so Professor Sampath was deputed to go there and then bring that computer over here. So that was the second US computer. That is the US computer which you are probably talking about.
There's a picture here. Could you tell us whether it is what you're referring to? Yeah.
No.
Sampath, yeah. This was Sampath.
Yeah.
You see that what was Sampath got as a gift?
Yes, it's a gift, yeah. And it was so huge, I believe,
Yeah.
that when we went there, they did not know how to move it out of the room. So they had to dismantle a section of the wall and then drop it down and then
Was this computer used for teaching purposes or what was done with it?
it was used for teaching purposes.
But you had the two computers in
Yeah.
different departments.
Yes,
German
yeah.
ones.
This was all built with walls. So
This was in the building sciences block itself.
Yeah.
Sorry, HSB. HSB. Adjacent to the central theater.
this used to be in for a long time in the one of the lecture halls on the ground floor.
Central
Yeah.
wing of the-
Yeah.
Central wing of the ESB, right? Central wing of the ESB.
Yeah. The northern wing.
CSU has come there, sir. CSU is there.
C. Subramanian has come there for the inauguration of the computer center when we had the CDC computer, first computer. But Mahabala was the
That is IBM.
IBM computer.
IBM.
IBM computer.
At one point,
Yeah, that was when Professor Mahabala was.
the department had a DEC machine also, PDP-11.
Yeah, that.
Yes.
Those were also there at
No,
that
that was much later.
That was later.
When I came.
That was much later.
Sir, the
When I
rightmost
came,
person is
That is Chandi.
huh?
Chandi
Chandi.
is chairman of the board of governors. This is Mahabala.
Huh?
This is Mahabala.
So, in fact, when I came to the department, there was still
Sir, who
analog
who's to the right
computer
of
controlling
right of
the lab.
CSU?
Okay.
And
That
we
is
had a
that
PDP
Dr.
11,
Erhard Epler.
Right
in
here.
the initial
Epler,
system.
Minister for Cooperation,
So
Federal
VCD
Government.
Reddy was the person who was handling the
Sir, where is Professor Mahabala now? Bangalore or?
Must be Bangalore.
So how about the other roles that you have played other than academic roles? Were you in the wardenships of hostels or were you in charge of
No,
student
no.
activities? Can you tell us anything about your days?
He used to be in the club.
I was a president of the staff. I was a president of the staff club for one term, And of course, various roles I had.
Twice you are head of the department.
Only once.
Only one.
That was enough headache.
Sir, is that Menon? That here, this one. There was one Menon. Was he that?
Yeah.
This is Menon.
Second one. First one.
Yeah, that's Menon.
Yeah.
I'm not still
Communication.
sure. I'm not sure.
Who is that person?
I'm not sure who it is. No, I'm not.
Sir, I think it is Menon Communication Department, Communication Section.
Possibly. Yeah. What else did I do? I was also in charge of CEC for some time, Central Electronic Center, and
Then Dean Academic Research.
the academic research.
Hmm?
Professor Ramachandran asked me, I see your name, you didn't figure in the, as a ward of the hostel, so would you like to become? I said, no. Then he said, okay, I will respect your.
In which year were you in IIT? When did you retire?
I retired in 93, October, but of course I continued till the end of the academic year, that was 94. Then I came back in 96 as a emeritus AICTE fellow, so I continued for 2 more years.
So there was supposed to have been a science fair associated with the Cultural Week and Mardi Gras at one time.
No, there used to be open house, what is called an open house. I remember 2 of them. That was during Indiresan's time, I think it was started. Professor Indiresan, when he was the director, he started that. And two open house programs.
One open house was Indiresan joined.
One was Pandal's time, correct. First one was Pandal's time. Yeah, Professor Pandale was there. Yeah.
No, the cultural program Mardi Gras.
Mhm.
So,
It was given some other name earlier, remember?
no, now it is
Now,
known as.
now it is
Sarang.
Sarang.
Earlier
Mardi
it
Gras was the
known as
first
Mardi
one.
Gras.
When was it started? Probably.
He was in the early 70s.
But I think Pandale was director.
Huh? No.
Pandale was
By
director, I
that
think.
name it was known 73 or 74.
Yeah.
But
Mardi Gras was in 70s.
73 or 74. But earlier there was a cultural week,
Yeah.
I understand. From 62 on.
Sir, as Professor Pandale in 74 director.
Yeah, Professor Pandale was the director in 74.
I think
yes,
at that time the name Mardi Gras was given.
Okay.
And he first objected to it.
As for you're talking about examinations and all that. Well, Ramachandran, of course, introduced the semester pattern. I think Professor Indiresan, he was the person who introduced a lot of reforms. For example, he made sure of electives, student evaluation, and then class committees to review the results and then do any kind of moderation that we like to have, and doing away with external examinations except for the MS and PhD, MTech degrees. So he introduced a lot of reforms so that your results came out in quick time, immediately after the examinations. So
Within a week or so,
Yeah.
1 week after the last exam, the result should come up as a rule.
And so examination reforms, that's a very notable point, and which was it is due to Professor Indiresan.
So what was your experience of being a campus resident in the sense that you were away from the main city itself? Because I think Chennai was smaller then.
Actually, I think that is residence in the campus is the best part of my service in IIT.
Can you tell us about that? Yes.
You see, we had everything that we wanted. All the good things that you can get in the outside in the city metropolis are available here. Once in a way, you used to go out just for the fun of shopping or eating outside, but everything else is here, and then it's like a tapovana. the tranquility of a Tapovana with the comforts of a city. Both they enjoyed the best of both worlds.
Right.
And so I think I always tell anybody whom I meet, I mean, talked about IIT, campus living is the best part of our service in IIT.
The open air theatre was a binding factor, I think. Every week you met practically every
Oh,
week
yeah.
on campus.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Open air theatre, it's a Sunday movies, I mean, Saturday movies we used to go, and then any cultural programs and so on.
Regional language movies
Regional.
at the time of any festival.
Yeah.
Holi, there used to be a celebration.
Once I remember when J. Krishnamurti was giving a talk in the open air theatre.
Yeah.
We were sitting on the steps there on the one side. M.S. Subbulakshmi came surreptitiously and sat on the steps. And then it took some time for people to notice, and then somebody came gently and escorted her to a seat in the front.
So that's an important point. There have been lots of VIP visitors on campus.
Yes, yes, lot of VIP visitors in the campus.
anybody-
Okay, we used to, one other good thing that was Indiresh introduced is extramural lectures. So, a number of luminaries in different fields were invited to give lectures, and as the dean academic course, dean research, I had a role to play to receive them, some of them, and then escort them and so on. So, in that capacity, I met quite a few luminaries. Sonal Mountain, dancer, then R.K. Lakshman.
Yes.
R.K. Lakshman, he said, somebody asked him, with all your cartoons and all this, you could have shown much better if you had gone abroad. Then he said, no, raw material is here for my cartoons. Where can I get this kind of raw material elsewhere? So it was very nice. And then Kirloskar, Dr. Kirloskar, forget the name.
Ramaswamy had also come.
Huh?
Who had come? Cho
Ramaswamy. Sri Subramanyam came on a couple of occasions. Sri Subramanyam.
I'm sorry now.
And the New Zealander who went on top of Everest, Hillary,
He was
Sir John Hillary,
yes.
Edmund Hill.
Edmund Hillary came.
Yeah.
He is New Zealand High Commissioner in India at that time. So he was asked and he gave a talk about the Himalayan Institute which was running. Then
Professor Bartin also came.
Professor Bardeen was a visiting professor. Bardeen, Nobel laureate in twice in physics. But the extramural lectures brought a number of people to the campus, and then it was very nice occasion for people to.
They were instituted by Professor Indiresh.
Yes, the program was initiated by Professor Indiresh, and he arranged a slot in one afternoon.
Wednesday.
Free in the timetable.
Yeah, you were there anyway. The classes used to be suspended,
Yes.
and that
Hmm.
particular 2 hours of
Sure,
Wednesday,
yeah.
it was extraordinary.
So what about other visitors to the department itself? Do you have any? Well, Professor Badi was,
Yeah.
but were there others notable people who came to electrical engineering department?
Bardeen came to physics department, not electrical engineering department. Professor Ramasastri invited him, and
Professor Pauling came earlier,
Hmm.
but he gave a lecture.
in chemistry. He is another double Nobel laureate in peace and chemistry, I think. Some notable Golding is one professor who wrote a classic book on electrical measurements. He visited once.
E.W. Golding.
E.W. Golding.
Were you playing tennis in the Stack Cup, sir?
No.
No, you didn't play tennis. Only
I used to play the ping pong
Oh, yeah.
very badly. And bridge sometimes.
Oh, you used to be in the Stack Cup almost every day.
Yeah, I used to be there. I used to play bridge.
Sharon used to play tennis. I think.
Yeah.
You played for some time.
Tennis and Because my wife used to say, Papa will take the tennis court, but keep it there and go and play bridge. My wife used to.
So was there interaction between the students and the staff in terms of bridge play games? Because I
Yes,
understand
yes,
there was a
yes.
culture of bridge.
Yes, they used to have some. I remember one occasion when the students invited in some hostel tournament, and then a team was sent from the staff club, and our people won. So they used to have some.
Was this in the 70s that this bridge activity peaked? Or?
Yeah, 70s.
The tournaments used to be held in the two rooms in the HSD.
Yes. And even in that said ladies club, used to be ladies club, I don't know what it is called now.
It's ladies.
They used to have some bridge tournaments there. One interaction I remember, I think, is just when you are talking about this, I am reminded of this. In 1973, I think there was a strike. You remember, Professor Swami?
What is that?
There was a employee strike.
Yeah.
That was in 1973-74. Due to some hostel problems, all the non-faculty employees went on strike.
Yeah.
That was a very tense period for because the authorities did not want to shut down the hostels. So the hostels have to run, and the staff members stayed on the campus. And so there was a lot of interaction between the students and the faculty at that time, when the students used to help in the running of some of the things, and then faculty members used to invite the students to their houses for dinner or lunch or what case may be, and then the students used to take the milk carts and then supply to the faculty, and some of us used to run around and then closing the circuit breakers which used to trip now and then all along keep the electricity system going.
Very nice.
It was a period of tension. At the same time, there was some kind of bonding between the students. That
How
was
long did this go on?
about
10 days.
about a week to 10 days.
Police was called.
Ah.
Yeah, the police was called.
Police was called. I think that was a interesting
That was a
thing.
bad period.
They used to throw arrows from one hostel to another hostel. Yeah?
Who? Students.
So like, fighting between hostels used to go.
Oh, no. Okay, that.
The nature on our campus is one of our highlights of our IIT Madras. How was it when you joined that? Is it true that the area around the ESB was quite bare at that time? Now it is full of trees. Can you recollect how it was when it was built there? What it was like?
No, they used at the back of ESB. They used to have a big banyan tree, and in the front we had those shady trees. It was there all the time.
No, sir, what he's asking is, you remember, I think you have to join only, between the ESB and MSB, in fact, one night we had a dinner where all the students and faculty were all in one.
Yeah, but true.
Yeah,
The
but
bushes were clear.
yes,
Bushes
yes.
were clear. The big trees were there all the time. Big trees were there all the time. And in the organization in the beginning, again in Professor Sengupta's time, this was set up. The Central Milk Supply Scheme was started by Professor Sengupta, because earlier they used to have the local milk supply people used to bring their cows and then used to deliver milk at our houses. In the very beginning,
Bring the cows and milk at our.
and with their usual tricks and all that with water. I mean, all those things are. Then there was one gentleman named Professor Ramanamurthy in physics department. He did yeoman service for the establishment of the hostels and common facilities for the faculty and students. So he negotiated with a number of local milk supply vendors, and then arranged to have the cows and all brought at a shed there, and then the milk procured, and also negotiated supplemented by the government department. And so he also made sure that we purchase the commodities required for various hostels in bulk, and then so that the prices, the rates can, best rates can come down. So this was all due to Ramanamurthy.
In fact, there was a arm of IIT called the Central Supplies.
Yes,
Yes.
supplies in CHU.
That's the supply.
That was the birth of that.
That was the birth of that. Yes.
So I have one more specific question about the campus itself.
I think behind those trees there was a barbed wire fence. I think the tennis courts beyond, between the tennis courts and what is the avenue called? There is, I think there was used to be barbed wire fence. There was a fence, but there were a lot of breaches. I mean, the fence was there, but people used to go under or above and.
So what was Velachery like at that time? I mean, were there lots of habitations there, or was it a bare land?
Beyond that, beyond that.
Yes, around the time of 62. What was
Comparatively barren, perhaps, but it's not really devoid of any. There were some trees and bushes and all that, but that extent is up to the wall. Well, separates Velachery. I think that used to be probably less. There used to be less vegetation than here.
There is a gate, a Brahmaputra hostel, right? So that's why from where the people would enter from the village and go to the side.
Yeah. That Brahmaputra.
we have difficulty in identifying a number of
People there.
situations and
Yeah,
people there.
yeah.
If you can help us.
This is Vasudevan.
This is Vasudevan, yes.
Was VGK, MV, who's central personally?
Baron von Mirbach.
Huh?
Baron von Mirbach.
Baron from Mirbach.
Okay.
Was he ambassador?
Probably. VIP, that's what is put. This is Vardachari.
Vardachari.
T. Vardachari?
T.S. Vardachari.
T.S. Vardachari.
T.S. Vardachari.
T.S. Vardachari. T.S. Vardachari. He was a senior technical assistant in lab.
Pengar Paravare.
Sitting there?
Sitting there. T.S. Vardachari. Very good
Is the
gentleman.
potentiometer?
The DC
That's
potential.
a DC potential.
With all that piano type of cover. This is Pauling.
Huh?
Linus Pauling. Is it Lynius or Li? How do you spell Linus Pauling? Linis, Nus?
LIA.
Ly, I think it was put there.
Live one by one. There is Pauling. Lifted, so
Yeah, that is Professor Sampath and Pauling. And, yeah.
Sengupta, Sampath, and then.
That is the Sethurathan registrar. Okay. Sethurathan registrar, right.
the same photographs, Pauling family.
I remember her. She used to put the board, Professor C.V. Sethurathan, and Aaron Fletcher first remove it. You know it, you heard it, yeah?
No,
One by one. So we can find out which labs they are.
One by one.
this
One is communication.
this is
Menon,
Menon probably.
Menon.
Menon. This is TV Gopal,
T.V. Gopal.
and that is Sadasivam. And not Sadasivam.
Ananta.
TV Gopal's compatriot. What's it?
C.R. Ramaswamy.
No, before that.
No,
before
no.
that.
Santan the youngster.
Santan Krishna, the other end.
நடுவுல இருக்குது யாரு பிள்ளையா இல்லையா
No. Maybe a student. Maybe a student.
Is it the postgraduate lab or is it research lab?
Sir, this is UG lab. 30, no, yeah, this is 302. Because the control panel is on this side. 301, the control panel will be on the other side.
Yeah.
So tables are there.
These are standard in sir.
These are all set up by Siemens company and their representatives in India.
Huh?
Siemens people set up this construct.
Were these labs are right in the beginning, sir? In 1962 when the building was opened.
This was built completed only in 64, 65 because first the frame came, the building was completed, then all these equipments came and then the wiring is very extensive.
Yes.
That is in principle, if there is a special supply available from a generator in the measurement slab, for example, somebody else in any part of the building, in the other sections also, would be able to tap that. Because all the supplies are going to the centralized control panel and the measurement slab. From there, spare wires are there running to other lab.
Okay.
So in principle, if he has got some special type of sine wave at a variable frequency, somebody else can tap that anywhere. So
In fact, I used it for my PhD in 1980. I generated the waveform in machines lab and used it in my room in room number 317. So brought it back to the control center of measurements lab, which was room number 310. From there, I routed it to 317,
Right.
and I was using that.
Was it a German technical institute involved in this, or is it only Siemens?
It's Siemens, completely Siemens.
The machines and some of the things may have come from different sources like AEG and so on, but the contract was Siemens only, the plants, the distribution part.
Right.
Was there a DC battery room or something like that?
No. We had a DG set.
DC source?
I mean, motor generator set.
Motor generator set which can generate various frequency AC supply, that is one. And then one which generates almost a pure sine wave, because the normal AC generators do not give you a pure sine wave. It's contaminated by various harmonics.
I see.
But there is one which is almost free from such impurity. That's a set which is used for calibration purposes. So that is one which is special. And then there is another where the voltage is regulated precisely. It doesn't change very much.
And also we had a 3-phase balancing unit, so which will give exactly 400 volts, 120-degree phase shift, 3-phase supply.
From a generator.
No, it was a separate unit. It will operate on the mains. It will adjust, increase, decrease. It's like an auto transformer.
It is Harryfield.
Harryfield.
Machines lab, Harryfield.